What's going on, everyone? It's your boy back with another video. Tonight, I have 4 absolutely disturbing stories from Uber drivers who work the night shift. These stories were sent to me by viewers, and I have to warn you, some of these experiences will make you think twice about getting in a stranger's car after midnight. So turn off the lights, get comfortable, and let's dive into these 4 creepy true Uber night shift horror stories. Story 1. The Whisperer. This first story comes from a driver named Marcus, who's been driving for Uber for about 3 years. Marcus usually works the night shift in downtown Chicago because that's when the money is good. Drunk people coming home from bars, late workers, you know the drill. It was around 2:30 a.m. on a Friday night when Marcus got a pickup request from an apartment complex on the south side. The passenger's name was just listed as Sarah. Nothing unusual about that. Marcus pulled up to the address and saw a woman standing alone under a dim streetlight. She was wearing a long black coat and had her hood pulled up, which wasn't weird considering it was October and pretty cold outside. She got in the back seat without saying a word. Marcus looked in his rearview mirror and said, "Hey there, Sarah? Heading to Millennium Park, right?" She just nodded. Her face was mostly hidden by the shadow of her hood, but Marcus could see she was pale, really pale. The ride started normal enough. Marcus had his radio on low, playing some late-night jazz. But about 10 minutes into the drive, he started hearing something strange. It sounded like whispering coming from the back seat. At first, he thought maybe Sarah was on a phone call, talking quietly so she wouldn't disturb him. But when he glanced in the mirror, he could see both her hands were folded in her lap. The whispering continued, and Marcus realized he couldn't make out any actual words. It was just this constant, soft murmuring sound. It was starting to make his skin crawl. He turned up the radio a little bit, hoping it would drown out whatever she was doing back there. "Everything okay back there?" Marcus asked, trying to sound casual. Sarah didn't respond. The whispering stopped for maybe 30 seconds, then started up again. This time, it sounded different. More urgent. More angry. Marcus was getting seriously uncomfortable now. He checked his GPS. Still about 15 minutes left to the destination. The whispering was getting louder, and now it almost sounded like there were multiple voices. But that was impossible. There was only one person in his back seat. He decided to pull over at a gas station. "Hey, I need to grab some gas real quick," he lied. Really, he just wanted to get a better look at this passenger and figure out what the hell was going on. As soon as he pulled into the gas station parking lot and turned on the interior lights, the whispering stopped completely. Marcus turned around to look at Sarah directly. What he saw made his blood run cold. She was staring straight ahead with wide, unblinking eyes. Her mouth was slightly open, but she wasn't moving her lips. The whispering had stopped, but Marcus could swear he still heard something, like an echo of voices fading away. "Ma'am, are you feeling all right?" Marcus asked, his voice shaking a little. For the first time during the entire ride, Sarah turned her head to look at him. When she spoke, her voice was completely normal, sweet, even. "Oh, I'm fine, thank you. Just practicing." "Practicing what?" Sarah smiled, and Marcus noticed her teeth were stained dark, almost black. "Conversations I need to have with old friends." Marcus felt every hair on his body stand up. Something was very, very wrong here. He quickly got out of the car, pretending to pump gas. But really he was trying to think of what to do. Should he cancel the ride? Should he call the police? As he stood there, he heard the whispering start up again from inside the car. But this time it was different. This time he could make out words. And what he heard made him want to run. The voices were saying his name. Over and over. "Marcus. Marcus. Marcus." But they weren't coming from Sarah. They sounded like they were coming from all around her, like there were invisible people crowded in his back seat. Marcus made a decision. He got back in the car, drove straight to the nearest police station, and told Sarah that's where they were going instead. The whispering stopped immediately. "This isn't my destination," Sarah said, her voice still eerily calm. "I know," Marcus replied, "but this is where you're getting out." When they pulled up to the police station, Sarah got out without another word. As she walked away, Marcus heard her laugh, but it sounded like multiple people laughing at once. Marcus reported the incident to Uber and found out later that the account belonged to a Sarah Henderson who had been missing for 6 months. Her apartment, the pickup location, had been empty since she disappeared. Marcus still drives for Uber, but never after 2 a.m. And he's installed a dashcam that records both the front and back of his car. Because sometimes, he says, you need proof that you're not going crazy. Story 2. The Last House. This next story is from a driver named Jessica who works nights in a smaller city in Oregon. Jessica had been driving for about a year when this happened, and she thought she'd seen everything: drunk college kids, people having breakdowns, the occasional weirdo. But nothing prepared her for what happened on this particular Tuesday night. It was around 3:15 a.m. when Jessica got a ride request. The pickup location was downtown, outside a 24-hour diner. The passenger was listed as Robert, and the destination was way out in the suburbs, almost a 45-minute drive. Normally, Jessica would have been happy about a long ride like that. Good money. But something about this request felt off. First, the pickup time. The request came in at 3:15, but it was scheduled for 4 a.m. Who schedules an Uber for 45 minutes later in the middle of the night? Second, when Jessica looked at the destination on her GPS, it seemed to be in the middle of a residential area with no major roads nearby. Just houses. But Jessica needed the money, so she accepted the ride. At 4 a.m. sharp, Jessica pulled up to the diner. There was a man standing outside, right where passengers usually wait. He was probably in his 60s, wearing a dark suit that looked expensive but old-fashioned. He had a small suitcase with him. "Robert!" Jessica called out her window. The man nodded and got in. "Thank you for being on time," he said. His voice was raspy, like he'd been smoking for decades. Punctuality is very important for this particular trip. As they started driving, Jessica tried to make small talk. "So, heading home after a long night?" "Something like that," Robert replied. He didn't seem interested in conversation, so Jessica focused on driving. The route took them out of the city and into residential neighborhoods that got more and more sparse as they went. After about 30 minutes, they were driving through areas where houses were separated by large lots, most of them dark except for the occasional porch light. Jessica's GPS was telling her to turn onto a road she'd never heard of, Elm Creek Drive. As she made the turn, she noticed something strange. All the street signs were old and rusty, like they hadn't been maintained in years. And the houses looked abandoned. Overgrown lawns, broken windows, mailboxes falling over. "Are you sure this is the right area?" Jessica asked, starting to feel nervous. "Oh yes," Robert said. "I know this neighborhood very well. I used to live here a long time ago." The GPS showed they were getting close to the destination. Jessica could see they were approaching a dead-end street. At the very end, there was a single house with a light on in the front window. It was the only house on the entire street that looked like anyone lived in it. As they got closer, Jessica could see the house better. It was old, really old, with Victorian architecture and a wraparound porch. But despite its age, it looked well maintained. The lawn was perfectly trimmed, and there were flowers blooming in the garden. "Here we are," Robert said as Jessica pulled into the driveway. Jessica looked at her phone. According to the GPS, they were at the right address. But something felt wrong. The air in the car had gotten cold, and Jessica could see her breath when she exhaled. "That'll be $67.50, Jessica said, wanting to complete the transaction and get out of there. Robert handed her cash, exact change. "Thank you for the ride, Jessica." Jessica froze. She hadn't told him her name. Uber shows the driver's first name to passengers, but she was sure she hadn't introduced herself. "How did you dash?" she started to ask, but Robert was already getting out of the car. As he walked toward the house, Jessica watched in her rear-view mirror. Robert walked up to the front door and knocked 3 times. The door opened immediately, like someone had been waiting right behind it. Jessica couldn't see who opened the door because of the angle, but she saw Robert go inside. As soon as the door closed, all the lights in the house went out. Every single one. And that's when Jessica realized something that made her hands shake on the steering wheel. The house looked different now. In the darkness, she could see that the windows were actually boarded up. The porch was sagging. The garden was just dead weeds. The house was abandoned, just like all the others on the street. Jessica quickly reversed out of the driveway and started driving back toward the city as fast as she could. But as she drove, she kept checking her rear-view mirror. And what she saw made her stomach drop. The house was getting further away, but the light in the front window was back on. And there was a figure standing in that window, watching her drive away. When Jessica got home, she immediately looked up the address online. According to public records, the house at the end of Elm Creek Drive had been abandoned for over 20 years. The last residents were an elderly couple who died in a house fire in 1998. The man's name was Robert. Jessica reported the incident to Uber, but when they looked into it, there was no record of a ride request from anyone named Robert that night. No payment had been processed. According to Uber's system, Jessica hadn't given any rides after 2:30 a.m. But Jessica still has the cash Robert gave her. $67.50 in old bills that smell like smoke. Story 3. The Group. This third story comes from a driver named Kevin who works the night shift in Miami. Kevin's been driving for Uber for almost 2 years, and he's used to picking up groups of people. Friends going home from clubs, co-workers sharing a ride, that sort of thing. But the group he picked up on this particular Saturday night was unlike anything he'd ever experienced. It was around 1:45 a.m. when Kevin got a ride request for 4 passengers. The pickup location was outside a nightclub downtown, and the destination was about 20 minutes away in a residential area. Normal stuff. Kevin pulled up to the club and saw 4 people standing together on the sidewalk, 3 men and 1 woman, all probably in their late 20s. What struck Kevin immediately was how coordinated they looked. They were all wearing similar dark clothing, and they moved in unison as they approached his car. When one of them stepped forward, the others stepped forward at exactly the same time. When that person stopped, they all stopped. The man who seemed to be the leader opened the door and said, "Thank you for coming to get us." His voice was very calm and polite. "No problem," Kevin replied. "Everyone getting in?" "Yes," the man said. "We all go to the same place." As the 4 passengers got into his car, 3 in the back, 1 in the front passenger seat, Kevin noticed something odd. They didn't talk to each other at all. No conversation, no jokes, nothing. Most groups of friends would be chatting, especially coming from a nightclub. But these 4 were completely silent. Kevin started driving and tried to break the ice. "So, did you guys have a good time at the club?" The woman in the front seat turned to look at him. "We had exactly the time we were supposed to have." That was a weird way to answer. Kevin glanced in his rearview mirror at the 3 passengers in the back. They were all staring straight ahead with identical blank expressions. "Are you all friends?" Kevin asked, trying again. "We're together," the woman replied. "We've been together for a very long time." As they continued driving, Kevin started noticing more strange things. First, none of the passengers were wearing seatbelts, but when Kevin mentioned it, they all put them on at exactly the same time without saying a word to each other. Second, whenever Kevin changed lanes or turned, all 4 passengers moved their heads in perfect synchronization to look in the same direction. But the thing that really started creeping Kevin out was their breathing. At first, he thought it was just a coincidence, but after a few minutes, he was sure. All 4 passengers were breathing in perfect rhythm with each other. In, out, like they were all connected to the same set of lungs. Kevin tried to focus on driving, but the synchronized breathing was making him incredibly uncomfortable. He turned up the radio, hoping some music would help break the weird atmosphere in the car. As soon as the music started playing, all 4 passengers turned their heads to look at the radio at exactly the same time. They held that position for about 10 seconds, then slowly turned back to face forward in perfect unison. "Could you turn that off, please?" the woman asked. Kevin turned off the radio. The silence that followed was deafening. And in that silence, Kevin could hear their breathing even more clearly. It was like one person breathing, but amplified 4 times. They were about halfway to the destination when something happened that made Kevin's blood run cold. His phone, which was mounted on his dashboard for GPS, started ringing. The caller ID showed his own name. Kevin was getting a call from his own phone number. "That's strange," Kevin said, more to himself than to his passengers. All 4 passengers turned to look at the phone at the same time. "You should answer it," the woman said. Kevin stared at the phone. How could he be getting a call from his own number? That was impossible. But the phone kept ringing. "I don't think I should dash," Kevin started to say. "Answer it," all four passengers said in unison. Their voices were perfectly synchronized, like a four-person choir speaking instead of singing. Kevin's hands were shaking now. He reached for the phone and answered the call. "Hello," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "Kevin," came a voice from the phone. It was Kevin's own voice. "Kevin, you need to get out of the car. You need to get out of the car right now." Kevin dropped the phone. It clattered onto the floor of the car, but the voice kept talking. "Kevin, they're not human. Kevin, get out of the car. Kevin, run." All four passengers were now staring at Kevin. Their eyes had changed. Instead of normal human eyes, they were completely black. No iris, no pupil, just solid black. "Kevin," the woman said, and her voice now sounded exactly like Kevin's voice. "Don't listen to the phone, Kevin." Kevin slammed on the brakes and pulled over to the side of the road. "Everyone out," he said, his voice shaking. "Everyone out of my car right now." The four passengers looked at each other, then back at Kevin. "We haven't reached our destination yet," they said in unison, still using Kevin's voice. "I don't care. Get out." The passengers didn't move. Kevin could hear his own voice still coming from the phone on the floor. "Kevin, run. Kevin, get out. Kevin, they're not human." That's when Kevin made a decision that probably saved his life. He opened his door and ran. He left his car running, left his phone, left everything, and ran as fast as he could toward the nearest building with lights on. When he looked back, he saw all four passengers get out of his car and stand in a line on the sidewalk. They watched him run, all turning their heads in perfect synchronization to track his movement. Kevin called the police from a 24-hour gas station. When they went to investigate, they found Kevin's car still running on the side of the road. The doors were all open, but there was no sign of the four passengers. Kevin's phone was gone. The next day, Kevin checked his Uber account. According to the app, he had never picked up any passengers that night. There was no record of the ride request, no payment, nothing. But Kevin knows what he experienced. He doesn't drive for Uber anymore. And sometimes, late at night, Kevin gets phone calls from his own number. When he answers, he hears voices that sound exactly like his own voice, saying, "Kevin, come back to the car. Kevin, we're still waiting for you." Story 4. The Route. This final story is from a driver named Amanda who works nights in Portland, Oregon. Amanda is a single mom who drives the night shift to make extra money, and she's usually pretty comfortable with late-night passengers. But what happened to her on this particular Thursday night changed how she thinks about driving forever. It was around 2:20 a.m. when Amanda got a ride request from the airport. The passenger was listed as Michael, and the destination was a hotel downtown. A pretty standard airport pickup, probably someone coming in on a late flight. Amanda pulled up to the designated pickup area and saw a man in his 40s standing with a carry-on bag. He looked normal enough, business casual clothes, tired from traveling. He got in the back seat and said, "Thanks for picking me up so late." "No problem," Amanda replied. "Long flight." "Very long," Michael said. "I feel like I've been traveling forever." As Amanda started driving toward downtown, she noticed that her GPS was acting strange. Instead of showing the usual route, a straight shot down the highway, it was directing her to take a series of back roads and side streets. Amanda had been driving in Portland for over a year, and she knew the city well. This wasn't the fastest way to get downtown. "Hey, my GPS is taking us on a weird route," Amanda said. "Do you mind if I just take the highway? It'll be faster." "Actually," Michael said, "I'd prefer if you followed the GPS exactly." "I have my reasons." Amanda thought that was odd, but passengers sometimes had preferences about routes. Maybe he was afraid of highways or something. She decided to follow the GPS directions. The route took them through residential neighborhoods that Amanda had never driven through before, even though she'd been working in Portland for a year. The streets were narrow and winding, lined with old houses that looked like they'd been built decades ago. As they drove, Amanda started noticing something strange about the route. Every street they turned onto seemed to loop back around in a way that didn't make sense. She'd see the same landmarks, a distinctive mailbox, a house with a unique paint job, a streetlight that was flickering multiple times from different angles. "Are we going in circles?" Amanda asked. Michael was looking out the window intently. "No, we're following the route. This is the right way." Amanda checked her GPS again. According to the screen, they were making progress toward the destination. But Amanda's internal sense of direction was telling her they were definitely going in circles. She'd seen that blue house with the white shutters at least 3 times now. "Look, I think there might be something wrong with my GPS," Amanda said. "Can you just give me the address of your hotel? I can navigate there manually." "The GPS is working perfectly," Michael replied. "We need to stay on this exact route." There was something in his tone that made Amanda uncomfortable. It wasn't threatening, exactly, but it was insistent. Like this was very important to him. They continued driving, and Amanda became more and more convinced they were going in circles. But the weird thing was, her GPS showed they were making progress. The estimated time to arrival was counting down normally. According to the app, they should arrive at the hotel in 15 minutes. That's when Amanda noticed something that made her heart start racing. Her odometer hadn't moved. They'd been driving for over 30 minutes, but according to her car's odometer, they had traveled 0 miles. "What the hell?" Amanda whispered, staring at her dashboard. "Is something wrong?" Michael asked. Amanda looked in her rearview mirror to answer him, and what she saw made her slam on the brakes. The back seat was empty. Michael was gone. But his voice was still coming from the back seat. "Please keep driving, Amanda. We're almost there." Amanda's hands were shaking as she turned around to look directly at the back seat. There was no one there, but she could still hear Michael's voice, as clear as if he were sitting right behind her. "Where are you?" Amanda asked, her voice cracking. "I'm here," Michael's voice replied. "I've always been here. Please keep driving." Amanda grabbed her phone to call 911, but when she looked at the screen, it showed that she had no signal. No bars, no connection, nothing. That was impossible. She was in the middle of the city. She looked at her GPS again. Now it was showing that they were only 5 minutes away from the destination. But when Amanda looked out her windows, she didn't recognize anything. The houses looked older, more run down. The streetlights were dim and flickering. And there were no other cars on the road. No people. No signs of life anywhere. "Michael, I need you to tell me what's going on," Amanda said, trying to keep her voice steady. "We're almost there, Amanda. Just keep following the route." Amanda made a decision. She was going to ignore the GPS and drive straight back to the main highway, back to areas she recognized. She took the next right turn, hoping it would lead her back to familiar territory. But when she made the turn, she found herself on the exact same street she'd just been on. The same blue house with white shutters. The same flickering streetlight. The same everything. "You can't leave the route, Amanda," Michael's voice said softly. "This is the only way." Amanda tried turning left at the next intersection. Same result. No matter which direction she turned, she ended up back on the same loop of streets, seeing the same houses over and over again. She was trapped. For the next hour, Amanda tried everything she could think of. She tried turning off her GPS, but her car seemed to follow the route anyway. She tried stopping the car completely, but it would start moving forward on its own after a few seconds. She tried getting out of the car, but the doors wouldn't open. And the whole time, Michael's voice kept reassuring her, "We're almost there, Amanda. Just a little further." Finally, Amanda's GPS announced, "You have arrived at your destination." Amanda looked around. She was parked in front of a hotel, but it wasn't any hotel she'd ever seen before. It was old, really old, with a vintage neon sign that flickered between hotel and motel. Most of the letters were burned out. "Thank you for the ride, Amanda," Michael's voice said. Amanda felt the car door behind her open and close, even though she couldn't see anyone getting out. She heard footsteps walking away from the car, crunching on gravel. As soon as the footsteps faded away, Amanda's car doors unlocked. Her phone suddenly showed full signal. Her GPS changed to show her real location. She was somehow back at the airport, in the same pickup spot where she'd started. According to her phone, no time had passed. It was still 2:20 a.m. But Amanda felt like she'd been driving for hours. When Amanda checked her Uber account the next day, there was no record of picking up anyone named Michael. But there was a payment in her account for $200, way more than the ride should have cost. The money came with a note in the app: "Thank you for helping me find my way home." Amanda still drives for Uber, but she never accepts rides from the airport after 2 a.m. And she's disabled the GPS in her car. She only drives routes she knows by heart now, because sometimes, she says, technology can take you places you were never meant to go. So there you have it, 4 creepy true Uber night shift horror stories that will definitely make you think twice about who you let in your car, or whose car you get into late at night. These drivers were just trying to make an honest living, but they ended up experiencing things that will probably haunt them for the rest of their lives. Which story scared you the most? Was it Marcus and the whispering passenger? Jessica's trip to the abandoned house? Kevin's encounter with the synchronized group? Or Amanda's impossible route? Let me know in the comments below. And if you have your own creepy rideshare stories, send them my way. I love hearing from you guys, and who knows, your story might end up in a future video. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more true horror stories. I'll see you in the next one. Sweet dreams.